Good evening, good evening. How you guys doing out there? This Mike Melton back with From Pain to Purpose podcast with a very special guest tonight, all the way from the other side of the United States. We have Dr. Denyse S. Turner in the building. What's up, Doc? How you doing tonight?
I am awesome. I really am. With everything that I've experienced, I'm awesome. How are
Yeah,
you?
okay. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
That little thing is happening again with the
Oh, is it?
yeah, with the what's the name? If it's something that's but we'll try to get through it though. So how you been doing, Doc?
I've been doing well. Um, Going through clarity,
Mm,
which is a good thing. So I'm good.
mm. Yeah, I was interested. I was reading your when you filled out the questionnaire and you went through a lot of stuff and I think definitely your testimony will be able to help a lot of people. So take us back from the beginning and how was your life growing up and in your teenage years and stuff like that.
You asked me a question a little while ago about what I've been through, and as I go through my story, you'll see why it was impactful. And I didn't see until I came out of everything how impactful
Mm-hmm.
it was. And I say that because I met my husband when we were 5 years old.
Wow.
We were in
Wow.
kindergarten together.
Is there any way
And
that hold on, is there any way we could do something with the mic thing? Cause your story is good and it has that like what's the name sound in it.
I don't know what to do with it.
Is it
Is it still
do you
choppy?
have like some headphones or something you could put on or something like
I
that?
do. Um, Let me see. Hold on.
All right. Yeah, hopefully we could get the mic thing from making that clicking noise because it seemed like she has a real good story.
Um, but you know what? I'm I'm using my iPad and it does not connect to the Bluetooth.
Oh. Oh, so that's what's going on. That's what's going on. Can you what kind of phone you got? You want to just try to do this from your phone?
I can.
Yeah, that'll probably just go on to the link from your phone and then disconnect from the other thing because the phone thing will definitely work.
All right. I hope you can cut all of this out.
Oh yeah, once we do the clips and stuff, it'll be what's the
Okay.
name? All right.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Yeah, while she get that going and we'll go from there when she come in on the other one. We'll check that one. We was backstage, it was working at first. So I thought we was good. Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I need to turn I need to come out of this iPad.
Yeah, yeah, take that one off. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
There you go. There you go. All right, now we could get
Does that
That
sound better?
100% better.
Oh, wow.
100% better.
All right. Now, where am I going to put the phone? Okay. Let me know if you're seeing me okay.
Yeah, I see you perfect.
Okay, good. Well, here we go. All right. So, where were we?
You was telling us about meeting your husband at 5 years old.
I met my husband when we were in kindergarten together.
Wow.
I didn't know then that he would be a part of my entire life,
Mm.
but we were friends, as much as 5 year olds can be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he always said that he really liked me. He would pull my hair all the time. So we went through life together, but we sort of disconnected at some point. We did not meet back up until we were 21.
mm.
And when we met up, at that point, we had not seen each other for some years. But he said, I'm going to marry you one day.
Mm.
And to me, I said, I don't even like you like that. And I remember that so clearly. He said, okay,
mm.
all right. But he was right. And so we did connect further, and we actually got married when we were 22.
Mm.
He was a preacher. He was a pastor. He was a preacher first, and he came and he joined my home church. And so when we were together, my thing was, I don't ever want you to be a pastor.
Mm.
I said that because I had seen so many examples of pastors' wives who had gone through different types of things. I didn't know at that point. I couldn't give language to
Mm-hmm.
trauma, but I knew that they were going through different things that was affecting them. And I said, no, we're not going to do the pastoring thing. He
Mm.
said, okay. He was a preacher. And at some point, he said, I think God is calling me to pastor. And I was like, didn't we go through this already? He said, I have to follow God.
mm-hmm.
I followed him.
Mm.
And his first pastorate in Baltimore, Maryland, we were there for 8 years. Um, and as I go through this story, the thing that is so magnificent about this is because I always say I lived a quote unquote dream life.
Mm.
And I said that because we didn't have any issues in life. Yeah, we go through different things like any couple, sometimes we were short on money, but it was still a dream life. And it was dream for me because it really let me see who I was. I've always been a people person.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were in this church, that became so much more pronounced, being a people person. And so I always say it was a dream life. At some point, he said, I feel God calling me to another place.
Mm.
Like, here we go again? Really? We ended up moving to New Jersey. We were in New Jersey. He was actually there 28 years, and I
mm-hmm.
stayed there for 32 after he passed. Not 32 years additional, but 32 years total in Patterson. And again, it was a dream life. And it wasn't until he passed that things started to go downhill.
Wow. So what
This
happened
is
to him?
one of the things that, and I had spoken to so many pastors' wives who have gone through some of the same things with the church. You think that people in the church know how to treat other people.
Mm.
Not so. Not so. And I learned that the hard way. We had everything set up as far as taking care of his family once he passes, life insurance, health insurance, seminary trainings, all kinds of things in his package that was created by a CPA and approved by the church. Yet, when he died, that's when they started. I'm going to try to be respectful to you,
Mm.
Mike,
I understand.
but they showed their butts.
Wow.
And it was so disheartening to me because I spent my life caring for other people, pouring out my heart to other people to then be treated the way we were at that point.
Mm.
But so let me just get back to my teen years. Everything was really normal. I went to the largest, well, the oldest girls' school in Baltimore, and it was a very prestigious school. So my life was good. And it wasn't until then, now that we're talking, like, what happened? So, when he died, things just went downhill. At that point, they asked me, and I had my daughter with me at that time. I have two kids, a
Mm-hmm.
son and a daughter. My son had already moved to Atlanta. My daughter and I were still together. And they asked us to leave the home that we had been in for 28 years.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, where are we going to go? We have no place to go, and we don't have the money to go if we had a place. This girl, and I've always been not just a people person, but I will stand up for my rights.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking them to court. I wrote my own defense. I presented it to the judge, and the judge said, I don't like to get in the middle of church and people. And I understood that, the separation
Mm-hmm.
of church and state. Um, and she did tell them, if you want her to go, then you have to give her some money so she could go. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have money to pay deposits and everything else that would need to be paid. So you need to give her some money. They didn't like that, but they gave me $1,500.
What?
$1,500 would not even pack up the house that we had of 40 years worth of stuff, let alone pay for deposits, a place to live, all of that. So, what that did was just provide some cushion money for my daughter and I to be homeless.
Wow.
That's how I became homeless.
Wow.
Um, we went from pillar to post, and I felt bad that I had my daughter and I had to go through that with her. But as you can see from the end, God did, He took care of us. He really did.
How did you handle it psychologically, like going from this dream life of like being a pastor's wife and then overnight just like boom, is homeless. Like psychologically, where was you at? Like mentally?
Yeah. And that was the disheartening part about it all. Um, I had never been homeless in my life. My parents had never been homeless. I had never been homeless. And when I say I lived a quote unquote dream life, I really did. And it would seem like I wouldn't even know how to handle that at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, I didn't know how to handle it. I
Mm.
had to depend on God. Initially, I was angry. I was truly angry, not just with people, but with God.
Mm.
I had to get to a point where I had to ask him. First of all, I had to say, God, I'm not happy and I'm angry with you. And I think sometimes we say we don't want to question God or we're not supposed to question God, but he can handle it.
I love that.
He can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I told him that I am angry. He stayed with me to get me through everything. So eventually, I became a little more adjusted to the situation. My heart started to calm down, and I could speak to God the way I should speak to
Mm-hmm.
him and not the way I was speaking to him. But during the time of being homeless, he called, and I heard so clearly the name of a church that he wanted me to go to. And I had never been to that church, but I was aware of the church because my son used to play basketball there.
mm.
Um, and it was a church of a different persuasion.
Mm.
And so I'm like, what am I going to do there, God? Why would you want me to go there? But that church is where I got my healing.
Wow.
I was able to connect with the lady who was doing trauma training.
Mm.
I didn't think anything about it. I wanted to take the class, but I'm homeless. I had no money. God said, speak to her. I did. I spoke to her and I told her what I'm experiencing. I had no money. And she said, this class is not going to cost you anything. I want to give it to you for how you have given out to everybody else.
Wow.
Like, wow. Okay. Thank you. I was in that class for 3 years. That class is where I got my initial healing. And I had to realize and recognize that at that point. And so, for those 3 years, I trained in how to adjust your life to tragedy, trauma,
Mm.
what to do, everything that people feel, the emotions that they go through during those times. I had to learn all of that because I didn't know. So I did that. And at the 3 year mark, and I thought that that was very impactful and it was insightful because the number three to me represents Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
It was the perfect number. And at the 3 year mark of being, after my husband passed, God started restoring everything. I had a decent job. I had a place to live. I had transportation. I had food to eat. 3 years.
Take me back to the class, right? How take me through learning about grieving and trauma and things of that nature while you're going through grieving and trauma. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes people learn about it first, then they go through it, or they go through it, then they learn about it. Like, you're doing both at the same time. Like, tell me, like, how do you process that?
And I talk a lot about integration
Mm.
because you have to not just experience what you're going through, feel what you're going through. Sometimes you have to integrate it into your life
Mm.
so you know how to get through it, how to feel going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that I'm still in touch with quite a few people from that class. And I was speaking to a gentleman the other day. Um, when I first got there, he said, you seem like you're angry. I'm sorry. I am.
You
And
think?
I asked him the other day, I said, tell me what you really saw in me. He said, I saw a person who doesn't really like people.
Mm,
I had to work on myself at that point because I'm not a person who doesn't like people. I love people. I love working with people. And for me to be perceived as somebody who doesn't like people hurt me.
mm,
That really hurt me. And so I really had to work on that. And then go and it also helped to soften my heart.
mm,
Going through the homelessness didn't feel good. It didn't feel good at all. But going through it and learning about all of these different concepts with trauma, with pain, um, it softened my heart. And so that was a process for me going through that 3 years. And at the end of that 3 years, people saw a difference.
What's going on with your daughter during this time?
My daughter, my daughter was a daddy's girl.
Mm,
She's a daddy's girl.
wow.
And for her to lose her daddy, she was worse than I was.
Wow.
It tore her world apart. She is to this day, it's been 10 years since he passed. To this day, she is still in an anger stage. And I'm trying to move her from that place, but she's not ready yet. Sometimes it takes some of us a little longer
Yeah,
than it takes others of us.
you're
And
not
so
ready
I
till you're
can't,
ready.
yeah, I can't push her because then it won't be authentic for her.
Mm,
The person who is now pastoring the church is actually a friend of hers. They were very close, but she will not step foot in that church. She doesn't want to talk to him at all. She
mm-hmm.
is still in a stage of disbelief, and she can't move forward. But during that time, she was crushed so much that she couldn't even go to work. So she had to stop working. She had no income. I was paying all of the bills. Once I got everything restored, I had
Mm-hmm.
to pay my car, her car insurance, rent, telephone bill, energy, everything was coming out of my pocket. That was a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually leads me to the next part
Mm-hmm.
of all of this because I reconnected with a high school sweetheart from Baltimore. And I had not seen him in all of this time. I knew we dated when we were 15 years old. I knew at that point he was such a nice person. I liked him a lot. But he lived in Vegas. I'm in New Jersey. So he said, why don't you come and visit me? And I'm like, where are you? Because I knew he was from Baltimore, but he had moved. So when I came out here, I came out just to see Las Vegas because I've been here for conferences, but never to live. So I wanted to see how people lived here.
Mm-hmm.
I got here on a Thursday night. It was the first weekend in February of 2019. I remember it clearly. Got here on a Thursday night. We went out, we had fun. Friday night, we we were watching a movie. He said one thing, and I said, "No, I don't think that's it." That was the beginning. He knocked me into a glass table
That night?
that night. So this was the second night
Wow.
I saw him. And excuse my French, but it stunned me so much. I said, what the hell just happened?
Wow.
And I was 59 years, no, 61 years old at that point.
What?
And I'm like, why am I going through this at my age? The thing, though, was he apologized. The next day, he apologized. I was grateful for that. Looking back over that, though, I understood he apologized so he could get me back out here.
Mm.
He wasn't really apologetic. He wanted to get me out here. So I went home that first weekend in February. I packed up my life to move to Las Vegas. And I drove to Las Vegas by myself. It took me 7 days.
Wow.
My daughter, where is she during this time? She was even angrier
Mm.
because she's saying, I lost my father. Now I'm going to lose my mother. But you're not losing me, but I need to get on with my life. I
Mhm.
need to see some type of normalcy in my life. Um, the thing with that whole season is it built my testimony.
Wow.
And it brought me back to I ran a young woman's group in New Jersey.
Mhm.
And these were young women who had been going through domestic violence. My advice to them was don't allow anybody to hit you. Walk away right away. I didn't know what to do. That was book knowledge that I was giving them.
Ooh.
It was not lived experience. And when I look back,
Mhm.
how would I expect somebody who's 19, 20, 22 years old to walk away if they don't have the finances or the support that they needed? I didn't realize that then. Being in this situation for myself, now I understood wow, that was horrible advice. Now I learned what it was like to be in a domestic violence situation, fighting for your life every other day. I had a gun put to my head, everything. That gave me another layer of testimony. Another
Mm.
layer. So I was with him for a while, but I had to walk away. And I had to depend on God to do that. I had a good job, but I didn't have anywhere to go, didn't know anybody here or anything. So I said, God, I have to get out of here. And he heard me. That was the year that I got additional money, not just through my job, but it was a year of going through the pandemic.
Mhm.
During the pandemic, but we got a stimulus check.
Mhm.
I got tax rebates. I got everything. I had everything that I needed to move. And that's what I did at that point. I still, my heart wouldn't let me treat him like he treated me. He mishandled me. And I should never have allowed that to happen. But I did. And when I left, I really wanted, he was having a knee surgery. I really wanted to leave while he was in the hospital. Uh,
Uh-huh.
my heart wouldn't let me do that
Wow.
because I'm saying, well, he's if he comes home, who's going to take care of him? He's going to be in pain. Who's going to give him his meals? Who's going to give him his medications? So I stayed. Not much longer, but I
Mhm.
stayed during that time. And I could not tell him that I needed to leave too early because the situation was so violent. I didn't know what would happen. And so I waited until 3 days before I left. I had all of my arrangements done, a moving company, everything was all set up. But I waited 3 days before to tell him. I thought being in the hospital, having a major surgery, being on pain medication, he wouldn't bother me. Was I wrong? And I'm like, where do you get all of this strength from? 3 days before, I said, I need to leave. And I think that it stunned him. It shocked him because he never thought that I would leave. And he said something that was so, I don't even know the word for it. But he said, if you leave, then we can't work on our issues.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, now it's a we situation. I've never touched you. Never. Now it's a we.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Mm.
For those 3 days, he was sort of, delayed, subdued. He didn't bother me. Um, and I left April the 20th, 2020.
Mm.
I left. Uh, I had an apartment all set up and everything. And so I went into my apartment. But 4 months later, I found out he moved right across the court from me.
Look at this dude.
And so he stalked me for about,
Wow. Wow.
he would ride by every day when he got off work. He would sit under my window, all
Mm.
things. And so I had to go through the stalking, the smear campaigns, all of these different things that people who go through domestic violence experience.
How terrifying was it knowing he was there and then having him like sitting under your thing, under your stoop and doing like how terrifying was that?
Very terrifying because I would never know what he would want to do. I wouldn't know what's on his mind. While he's sitting under the window, he would call on the phone, cursing, making all kinds of threats and everything. And I did call the police. The police went over there and said, you need to stay away from her. And he did stay away from me, but he was under the window.
Wow.
That's not against the law.
Wow.
So he didn't bother me. I just knew he was there. And I would take pictures of him being there. Um, but it was very terrifying because I never knew what he would do. Never knew.
Wow.
During that time, while he was stalking, um, I got up one Sunday morning. I was going to breakfast by myself, and all four of my tires were flat. I knew who did it. I knew who did it because there were cars around my car. Nobody else's car was touched but mine. So it wasn't, wasn't planned. It wasn't a random act. I knew who it was. And I did tell the police. The thing that brought me to the next season was the fact that when I was in New Jersey, after my husband died, my world was crushed. I had a travel business and I just was not paying attention to anything.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the presence of mind. I didn't have the emotional capacity to do anything. I never had intention of hurting anybody, but I didn't have it to give. That turned into a warrant.
Mm.
And so when I called the police about the car with the tires being flat, And they were very nice. You know, people talk about Metro in Las Vegas. They were very nice. He said, "Ma'am, do you know you have a warrant?" I'm like, "No, I didn't, but I guess I believe you." That's when the cuffs went on.
What?
They took me to jail.
Mm.
They took me to jail. Now, I've already said I've never been homeless, never was in an abusive relationship, I've never been to jail. How do you process all of these things? Now, remember, all of this is within a 10-year period, 10-year period out of my entire life. So everything was just like compounded on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a crybaby. If you didn't know, I'm a crybaby. To jail, and I didn't even cry. I didn't cry because after a couple days, I realized why I was there.
Oh.
People who had been incarcerated multiple times who were breaking down. And God used me to stabilize them.
Mm.
I said, I love to help people. I used my time to help other people. Now, they said, this was during the pandemic. So they said that in 30, I would be there for 30 days. And before the end of the 30 days, New Jersey would come and take me back to New Jersey. Okay. Um, at the 18th day, the CO came around and said, roll up. I felt really stupid. I'm like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I don't know what roll up means. Just
Mm-hmm.
pack your things. You're going home. I thought I was supposed to be here 30 days. All I know is you're going home.
Mm.
So I went home, and I attribute that to God as well.
Wow.
Worked that whole situation out where I was only there to help somebody else, and He got me out
Mm. All praises to the Most High.
to the Most High. And I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point.
So you travel across the country, get in this relationship which turns into domestic violence. You leave a relationship, still getting stalked, then go to jail for an old warrant during all this going on during the pandemic. What is holding your faith and so closeness to the Most High at this time? Like, cause some people would have just said, like, "Yo, I'm tired of this. Like, God, it's just a wrap." You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just gonna just
Give up?
give up, dive into sin. Like when I was going through a lot of stuff through my 10-year period, around 2011, I turned my back on him and I dove straight into sin for the instant gratification. Like I just was trying to escape what I was dealing with.
Right.
You was dealing with all that during that time. What did you have in your foundation that made you stick in there?
I think it was a few things. It was the fact that I was going through all of this basically alone. My daughter was around, but I was going through all of this by myself because she was feeling her own things. There was nobody left but God.
Mm, I've been there.
Nobody left.
I've been there.
I had to depend on him like I had never, ever depended on him. And by the way, when the gun was to my head, the only thing that I could say was Jesus.
Wow.
That's why he didn't shoot. I had to depend on God. And then thoughts of my husband came into my head. And I wanted to do things for him. I know he wasn't here. I know he wasn't coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But If what they say is true in the Bible, he is watching. I wanted to make him proud of me for going through everything that I went through and coming out on the other side.
Mm.
This was the strength that I showed when we worked together in ministry. I had to do it for myself. I had to say, I know I can do this. Because every time something would happen, I go to God and I felt like God is your problem child again. Here I and I always
Uh-huh.
but I had to lean and depend on him, continue to allow him to walk me through. I couldn't walk,
Mm.
I really couldn't. So he had to walk me through. I wanted to make my husband proud. I wanted to make my children proud. I wanted to make the rest of my family proud to say, wow, you went through this, and you came out on the other side by
Wow.
yourself. Yeah. So those were the things that I was actually thinking about. What's going to motivate me to get through? And I think a lot of times people go through these issues and they get so exhausted, so tired.
Mhm.
I don't want to fight anymore.
Facts.
Can't fight anymore. I don't want to- and I think that's how you felt. I want to
Mhm.
go to what's familiar to me.
Mhm. 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 It was a point to where like people used to ask me like, um, what would you want? And like everything had happened on September 14, 2009. And I would often say, I just want my life like it was on September 13th. You know what I mean? And I didn't understand it at the time, but after when I was I didn't get it to my second trip in rehab. I had my spiritual awakening, and then it was the first time I told my story. And I was in rehab and I told my story like when you get your coin and it's time to go, when the rehab is over. And the people were like looking through me when I was talking. It was about 150 people in this room. And it was like they were like, it was like they was mesmerized by me speaking and what I was saying. And that's when I knew why all of that happened.
Yeah.
Now you about to use this story to go help save people's lives.
That was your
Like,
point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's when everything made sense. Up to that point, it was like, why is all of this happening?
Yeah. And you don't understand it at the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I had to look at each part of
Mm-hmm.
what I went through to get that clarity. But it still didn't make me feel any better
Mm-hmm.
until I was really out
Mm-hmm.
on the other side. So I who am I now? I am still a person who loves people. I have used everything that I have gone through. There are people who have lived through deep loss.
Mm-hmm.
They've lived through the trauma, the traumatic experiences, and they come out and they reinvent themselves. So they come out with clarity about why they went through these issues. For the first 5 years of my business, I was helping people to heal one on one. This year, 2026, I sort of um, changed my perspective, changed the trajectory of what I'm doing because I understand that there are people who are in leadership positions
Mm-hmm.
who have gone through these things. They don't deal with them and they are leading other people.
Wow,
So
that's deep.
telling me that you have these issues within yourself, you feeling the emotions, you're feeling the the unstabilization that's in your life. You go through these different things and you're dripping it on somebody else.
Mm. Quick question.
Hmm.
Um, when you dealing with somebody that is scared to peel off the band-aid,
Yeah.
what or do you use some kind of therapy technique? Like, what do you do to really get them to understand that the healing is when you actually face the trauma and go through it? Like, how do you get them to get to that point?
When I do one-on-one counseling,
Mhm.
and so with my trained profession, I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in healthcare administration and one in public health.
Mhm.
Uh, also have a certification in not just the trauma, but also in family counseling. And when I sit with somebody one on one of the first things I tell them is there might be times you don't like me.
Mm.
And they look at me like really weird. I, uh, I'm serious because I need you to look at life experiences, trauma as a physical wound.
Mm.
It's a wound that's sitting there. It's scabbed over, but if you don't clean it, if you don't debride that wound, it still has some infection underneath. And that will come back and cause a problem for you if you don't clean it. So you have to dig deep. You have to figure out where the roots
Mhm.
trauma come from. That's where I have to go back to. And so it takes me sometimes 3 sessions to dig deep in that person's life. And that's why I say you might not like me because I got to pull it out. I've
Does
got to
it?
know where the roots are so we know where we're working from and what we need to do to get you to healing.
Have you
Um,
noticed, like, in terms of sex, the different genders, is one gender more easier to work with to get to that point than another? Because I know, like, when I do groups, um, at first I was doing all males. It was good. It was good, and then they added females with the males in the group. What I noticed was that the females was more vulnerable and transparent, and the guys was like holding on to stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talking about different subjects, the females were more transparent. But when it comes to healing, are they more like in terms of what you do? Do you see the same thing or you see something different?
I absolutely do. And if I look back on the people that I've worked with, the women, they don't mind sharing their experiences. They don't mind
Yeah.
how those experiences made them feel. The men are more guarded.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
just in 2025, I co wrote a book with a friend about men's mental health and the
Mm-hmm.
that men don't like to share that much.
Mm-hmm.
And even the person who co wrote the book with me said, I don't want to share it. I, but how do you help somebody else if you don't share it?
that's
That,
what I'm talking about.
and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, some people will tell me, why do you got to share all of that? How is somebody going to trust what I say if I don't tell them what I've been through? I already told you. I went through a quote unquote dream life.
Mm-hmm.
They see me sitting on a pedestal
Mm-hmm.
all the time, thinking that I'm Miss It. They're not going to trust me.
They're not going to tell you anything.
No. And so I
Facts.
have to tell the story. I have to give the narrative of everything that I lived through. And listen, I believe that God took me through all of these things so that I would have a testimony.
What's the percentage of the people you work with that their trauma eventually gets tied to substance abuse?
I would say about 30%.
Mm. Yeah, that's a decent number because more the experiences I see it be a lot higher. You know what I mean? But 30%, that's a that's a decent number.
You know why? Because it's the men.
Mm.
They don't want to share their story. And so, in order to hold on to what they know, hold on to what they're feeling, not share it, they use alcohol or
Mhm.
other, substances, um,
Mhm.
because that numbs them. They don't have to.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
It's even more difficult or challenging for me to get to the roots because now you've mixed in something else where you're not really feeling it. You're not cognizant of everything that you've been through. So, how can we get to those roots?
Mm. How often is it tied to childhood?
A lot.
Mm.
Lot. And I think about one person that I worked with, being very evil, angry, didn't know why, didn't like people, didn't do this, didn't do that. Like, why? But she didn't know.
Mm.
I dug into it. It happened in her childhood. It happened in childhood. She was molested. She was
Mhm.
abused. And so all of these things, and I take them through the memory of their childhood. And she like, I forgot all about that.
Mm.
That's where it's coming from. And so over the years, it's just been compiled. All of the other things that you've been through in life have been just piled on top of that. And so now it's buried deep down inside.
What I had to do
Emotion-
was go ahead. Go ahead. What you say?
It's buried deep down inside,
Yeah.
but the emotions are coming out. And I always say, if you don't deal with it, eventually it will erupt.
No, only way I was be able to do it was I had the gift of desperation when I went to rehab the second time. So when
Oh,
I went to rehab the second time, I got with this group and I did the 12 steps. So once I got to step 4, you got to do a fearless more inventory of your life. So they give you four different uh categories you got to write about. I had to do a sex inventory of the people I had sex with. Was I manipulating them and doing this and doing that? Like, then I had to write all the people, everything I feared and why. Then I had to write all my resentments, who I got resentments to and why. Then I had to write all the people I harmed and why. So now I'm looking at my life in front of my face. I couldn't rationalize my behaviors no more. I saw who I really was and I was disgusted. Like, this is you.
yeah.
When things are in my head, I could rationalize it. You know what I'm saying? But when I'm looking at it in black and white, I couldn't lie. Then step 5, I had to take it to my sponsor. He looks at it, and then I had to give him the exact nature of everything on those papers. I had to tell him everything.
But let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting there, you're writing, you know what the things that you've done,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to write why. How
Mm-hmm.
was that for you to understand why you did some things?
Um, it really came down to once he told me that I would feel better after I did this, I was at that point where I was willing to go through anything to get that feeling off of me. That's why I said it. I was at the gift of desperation. I had the gift of desperation to be able to do that.
Right.
That's why, like, when I sponsor people, um, more times than not, once we get to that point, they quit
Yeah.
because that gift of you got to have. They said in order to do that kind of process, you got to really feel like your life is on the line. Like, if I don't do this, like, I'm gonna die. So then you're willing to go all in. But once I saw it, it's like seeing yourself in that black and white, and I saw my patterns of my dealings with women. I saw the patterns. Like, cause I had to write all their names down, and then I had to write different things about the situation, and they had categories that you check. So then it got to the point to where it was like I just was putting quotation marks because I got tired of writing the same thing. But I'm seeing my pattern. Like, you can't lie and say that you're somebody else when you actually see who you are.
Black and white.
Yup, yup. And then I had to tell it to him. So that humbled me. It broke me. But we visited the trauma. One of the most revealing things that we found out, and then we'll get back to you finishing up your story. Um, when my
I don't.
first wife got murdered, one of the things I didn't understand was why I couldn't love her like she loved me. What was wrong with me? And I carried that for years, and I drank with that for years. I drank with it like, if I was a better husband, this wouldn't have happened. Like, why I couldn't accept it, the love. But when I did those steps and I went with my sponsor and my therapist in rehab, we took it all the way back to my childhood. And we was able to pinpoint what was wrong with me. And once I understood that, it lifted the shame, guilt, and remorse like off of me. Cause then I realized it wasn't my fault. So that's when, like, facing that trauma is it, but most of the times we run from it. We run to drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling,
Couldn't
anything to give us the dopamine. What you say?
face those feelings, so you turn to those things.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yep. Okay, and you can finish. I just wanted to add that in.
and when you got to that point of desperation,
Mm-hmm.
was because before then you were just surviving,
Yep, yep.
surviving, going from day to day, doing what you do from day to day, not thinking about everything that you have gone through. You're surviving. And so there is no stabilization there. And that's what I do now because I want people to move from surviving and start stabilizing.
Mm,
So I don't want to just help them to heal, but I want them to make sense of who they're becoming next.
mm,
You're now moving into another chapter of your life. You're moving into another season. And so you need to understand who you're becoming next. You are not who you were before that point of desperation.
yeah, you 100% right. 100% right.
And if a person does not take advantage of the healing, they can't move to another space. And so they just exist from day to day. They survive. And with leaders who are leading other people, you're leading with all of this stuff that's inside,
Mm-hmm.
ripping on somebody else, who probably somebody else who can't afford to absorb your emotions. And that's what led me to work with leaders.
Now, before you got to leaders and you was doing the individual, one last question on that I want some insight on. How did you protect your mental health after taking in all this information from so many people? Because when we take in a lot of traumatic stories from so many people, like, it can drain us. How did you how did you protect yourself on and your mental health while doing all those sessions?
And that's one thing that I learned in the 3 years that I was in the trauma course. Um, but it didn't take much for me because I think I've always been a person, if I get overwhelmed, I step back.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I did notice as I was working with people, even after one session, I'm like drained,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. uh-huh.
left my body.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I do. re-energize myself by stopping. And I do that. I do that quite often, because if I go through something like this week is difficult because I have this today. I have another podcast tomorrow, and Saturday I'm doing an in-person conference.
Mm.
I know when I get so involved in the story, I have to step back and stop. So
Mhm.
I did nothing.
Mm.
Did nothing.
Mm.
And a lot of times I watch TV and I just watch stupid stuff.
Just to have that sense of humor and
Yeah.
that laugh, yeah, and the joy, yeah.
Mindless entertainment,
Uh, yeah.
because I need to rebuild myself, so that I can then speak to the next person. So um, it's definitely something that will drain you. Um,
Mhm.
will feel overwhelming. Sometimes I even cry.
Mm.
And one of the things, um, I'm writing my domestic violence book.
Mm.
So I'm very much involved in domestic violence activities and events, and advocacy.
I gotta introduce you to my aunt. She was on my podcast. She married my uncle and she just was on TV. She got a huge domestic violence movement in New York. She been on TV about it. Her story. I had her on my podcast. I'm gonna give her your
Please,
Facebook thing, and so she could reach out to you and y'all could collaborate. Like she wrote a book about it. Like she's into that heavy. She's into that heavy.
please do,
Okay.
because
Okay.
you connect with as many people as possible. Um,
Okay.
violence, and I started writing that book. When I left him, it was April of 2020. I started
Hmm.
writing that book. Is
Mm.
written. And it's because every time I sat down to write it, I became triggered.
Wow.
Memories would come back. I would get overwhelmed. I would become fearful. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I couldn't get the book written.
Mm.
But it wasn't until recently I figured out why I really couldn't write it, because that chapter was not finished.
Oh.
He just died a
Oh.
few weeks ago. Now I feel free. I
Oh.
feel the weight that's lifted off of my shoulders,
Oh.
and I can write. And now it has another chapter, because that chapter I couldn't close the book out without the final.
Wow. Wow.
Now I got it.
That's deep.
So you have to learn how to step back, and I got triggered so many times writing the book. I said I can't do it right now.
Mm.
Wait. And look what I waited for.
Wow. That's deep right there. That's deep right there. So if you're sitting down in front of a young lady now that's been through all of that and she come to you and she says, I've been through this domestic violence thing and I want to heal. Where do I start? What's your spill?
Well, the first thing I tell them, that healing isn't enough. It's not enough alone. You got
Mm.
to do some hard work. Just like you
Mm.
have and write about your experiences and why you did some of the things that you did. Those are the things that we each have to go through
Mm.
to figure out where I am, where I want to go. We got to do the work. We got to do the grief work. We got to do therapy. Um, we got to pray. But you
Mm.
still feel disoriented if you don't do everything.
Mm.
When I understood that pain doesn't just wound you emotionally, but it interrupts your identity and your direction. And realizing that changed everything for me because I wasn't just sad, I wasn't just depressed, I wasn't just emotionally challenged, but my identity changed.
Wow.
The
That's
direction
real.
I
That's
had to,
real.
I came from here. I have to figure out now where I am, and I have to figure out where I'm going.
Mm.
To do all of that work because if not, you stay stuck.
Do you ever run it? Okay. Do you ever run into this roadblock when you was dealing with people? Um, they're so comfortable being hurt and damaged, and they depend on that because if they get to the solution, they don't have that excuse no more, and they have to live up to the expectations and responsibilities of being a person that's healing. You get what I'm saying?
That's one reason why I'd like to work with people for at least a year.
Mm.
And I say a year because I see people in all four seasons of the year. I don't really see the four seasons out here, but
Hmm.
people who go through four seasons of the year, they react differently.
Mm.
They respond differently. And so I want to see you in every season of the year because if you're in an acute crisis, you're going to bleed emotionally. And over time, I notice things that are deeper. And people who are not in crisis anymore, they were still stuck.
Mm.
We're trying to figure out why. Why can't you move to the next step? Why can't you get out of this rut of being stuck and not knowing where to go and how to move?
Hmm.
And I figured out that they weren't broken, they were just unanchored. So we
Mm.
had to do a shift about what we're talking about, what we're dealing with, what we're looking at, and realize you don't just need the healing, but you need the clarity. And we got to get to the point of clarity, the stabilization, and the direction that you want to go.
Mm. Mm. Where does any fear of success come into that?
Well, we're all scared.
Mm.
We all are, especially when you go through things that you've never gone through before. You think I was
Hmm.
scared in jail.
Mm. Mm.
Scared. I was fearful. I did. I look at stuff on TV. I see, how they they treat each other in jail. I'm like, I don't want to go through that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What's the what you have on the horizon coming up, and where could people really get in touch with you and get your services? Like what do you offer?
I do a lot of training. I do live trainings. I do workshops. I do classes. I'm doing a conference on this Saturday. And so people can get a hold of me wherever they need me. My website is denisehturner.com,
Mm-hmm.
and there are different trainings, there's different workshops, there are calls for submission. I'm doing a couple and
Mm.
books for two groups of people who are in a depressed state, not depressed emotionally, but their lives are in a depressed state. Um, they don't have the funds that they need. They don't have,
Mm.
they're unstable in their lives. And so I'm doing a book for those to write a chapter about their experience. And then that's going to turn into a class for them.
Oh.
The other group is pastors' wives. I talked to so many pastors' wives who had been through stuff I had never even thought about. And I'm
Mm.
like, wow. And the majority of people think the pastors' wives got it all together.
Mm.
They don't know what they suffer through behind closed doors. A lot.
Wow. What's the you said something in the beginning of the podcast that caught my attention, but I'll just let you flow with the story. What's the difference between the preacher and the pastor?
The preacher and the pastor.
Yeah, because I heard you say that, and I was like, that was interesting. She said that because I thought it was like the same person. Like, what's the difference?
Well, when I married my husband, he was a preacher,
Okay.
just a preacher. He was licensed to preach, but he didn't have a church. The pastor
Oh.
has a church
Okay.
that he sees,
Okay.
and there may be associate ministers there, associate
Okay.
pastors.
All right.
So there is a top pastor over the church.
Okay. Okay.
That's not just a preacher.
Okay. All right. All right. I
So
get what you're saying.
the pastor not only does the preaching, but he's responsible for the church, the administration of the church, the
Hmm.
growth and development of the church, the
Okay.
evangelism, the discipleship. All of those things fall under his job description.
Mm.
So that's the difference in the preacher and the pastor. And that was the part I didn't want no part of.
Me neither. I don't like all that stuff. I just want to go out and give his word and try to tell people about him. That's
Yeah,
it. Like all the other stuff, they can have all of that. And my
yes.
and my final question, like when you was doing your work and when you were talking to people, how much of uh God and Holy Spirit and things like that do you include in your presentation and when you're trying to help somebody?
It takes discernment
Mm.
because I don't want to offend anybody. I
Mm.
I love God
Mhm.
1,000%.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And I will tell people I love God and God has gotten me through these things. However, when I work with different people who may not have a faith part of,
Mm.
I have to gain their trust first.
Mm.
And then I tell them, listen, this is what God did for me.
Wow.
Some kind of faith. You have to have something to hold on to.
Mhm.
There is whoever your faith leader is get you through to the next part. You can't do it by yourself.
Mm.
Got to have somebody in the physical, like a person walking beside you to walk you through different things. And one of the things I tell them, your pain doesn't get the final word. Purpose requires participation. And
Wow.
you've got to participate with somebody and have a faith base so that you will get the clarity of how you're going to walk through with wisdom, courage, intention, and all of that. And one of the things is I like to do different things. So this year, I'm actually doing a cruise.
Mm.
And that would be something I would love to speak with your aunt about.
A
Uh,
100%.
yeah, I'm doing a cruise. I'm an event planner by trade.
Mhm.
And so on a cruise, I have a travel agent who is handling the travel arrangements. But on
Mhm.
the cruise, we're going to have some special workshops, special seminars, and it's going to be based on domestic violence.
Oh, she'll love that.
Yes, and
She'll
so
love that. She'll
uh,
love that.
I think we're going to Cozumel, Mexico.
Mm.
And I've done some statistical reading on that. There's not a lot of domestic violence in Cozumel, but there is in surrounding areas. And
Mm.
so I want to be able to help somebody in Mexico who is going through different things like that. And so we're going to have fun on the cruise.
I'm gonna definitely give her. What I want you to do is inbox me your number, then I forward it to her, and I'll let her know that you're a good person, and we talked, and of course she's gonna see the podcast, but forward me your number, then I give it to her, and y'all gonna definitely be able to do some stuff together.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And I just want people to know healing is not your destination.
Mm,
Clarity is. Clarity, because you need to have the clarity to know where you're going. You need it to stabilize, realign yourself, and move forward without repeating things that you've done before.
mm. So
That's the
thank you, Dr. Denyse Turner,
this
for coming on tonight. Huh?
this has been a pleasure.
I know. I told you it was gonna probably be a good conversation, most high willing, because I did a lot of work on myself too. So when I was reading your questionnaire, I'm like, yeah, I could tell this woman did a lot of work.
And I am grateful. I'm grateful to you
All
because
praises to the Most High.
so much.
All right, no doubt, no doubt, Doc. All right, thanks for coming on, Doc. I'm gonna send you those clips. When
Okay.
I'm gonna do them tonight, and then I'm gonna send you an email tomorrow with a file that you could just take all the ones you want.
Perfect. I love it.
All right, Doc. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye bye.
Wow, very good conversation, interesting conversation. Another great podcast for Pain the Purpose. Next week, got another special guest coming on, and I'll be announcing it in a couple of days. But I think you guys gonna really love this guest. But Dr. Denyse, she hit hard about dealing with the trauma and healing and putting in the work. I hope if you anybody watching out there and you know some people that's going through this, forward them the podcast so they'll be able to see the kind of work that we got to put in to get better with dealing with trauma. This Mike. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.